All right, today we will study the life of Guru Padmasambhava. Let's go through the life of Guru Padmasambhava together. Why are we discussing the life of Guru Padmasambhava? Why are we studying this? As we all know, for those who practice Vajrayana Buddhism, the profound practices and precious teachings of Guru Padmasambhava are extremely important and indispensable. In this context, Guru Padmasambhava, most schools of Tibetan Buddhism, most major schools of Tibetan Buddhist tradition, as well as some Western scholars from various backgrounds, all acknowledge that he is indeed truly remarkable. However, there are also actually some people who have a wide variety of different opinions. This includes doubts about the miraculous birth of Guru Padmasambhava, with some people harboring skepticism. There are also questions about all of Guru Padmasambhava's great accomplishments, and some people even doubt these as well. Of course, I think these doubts, if one understands Tibetan Buddhism, all such confusion will be dispelled immediately and completely. These kinds of doubts are actually very easy to resolve and clarify, but for those who do not understand, they may still have some questions. Why exactly did I translate it last year? Because this biography by Tāranātha is a little bit different from the biographies found in other Terma texts. It is relatively closer to the natural laws of life and death in real life. It is much closer to the actual natural laws of birth and death. Because it is already mentioned here that Guru Padmasambhava was in fact born from a womb. Among the 4 types of birth, moist, egg, miraculous, and womb-born, this one belongs to the womb-born category. This historical account is also very important for our understanding. So let's take a quick overview of it. Because in the future, when we are faced with certain matters, it might be better for everyone to have some understanding of this. As for the life of Guru Padmasambhava, its subtitle is, which is 3 Reasons for Confidence. It refers to possessing 3 kinds of faith: pure faith, aspiring faith, and discerning faith. The meaning might be that after reading the life of Guru Padmasambhava, if we read it, we will develop these 3 kinds of faith within our own mind streams. At first we may not understand the principles, but we still have great faith in Guru Padmasambhava. That is what is called pure faith. Then, as we gain more understanding, within our own sincere intentions, we gradually develop a very joyful, truly devoted, and deeply heartfelt faith in him. Generally speaking, this kind of joy is not easily changed. This is called aspiring faith. Finally, there is a truly rational, principled kind of faith, which is unchangeable and irreversible. This kind of faith is called discerning faith. So, I don't know, among those of us present here, our faith in Guru Padmasambhava, whether it is aspiring faith, pure faith, or the final sincere faith, in fact, is not really very clear. So, in discussing this topic this time, actually, at the very least, it will really help everyone's faith to increase further. In my own personal reflections, I believe that if a person relies on certain secret teachings like Dzogchen and attains realization within their own mind stream, then praying to Guru Padmasambhava is extremely important. Many great masters of the past all attained realization by relying on prayers to Guru Padmasambhava. This is extremely, extremely important. So, it is best not to break this connection. This is extremely important, and it should be maintained whenever possible. The other day, there was also a Khenpo teaching in the West who left me a message on someone else's WeChat saying he was especially grateful to the Khenpos from Larongar because in many Westerners' homes there are images or statues of Guru Padmasambhava displayed, and they have great faith. If such causes and conditions are present in their mind stream, genuine realization can arise. He left me some voice messages. He left several important voice messages for me. So personally, I also believe that everyone's faith in Guru Padmasambhava is indeed very important. As for myself, perhaps because of my family or my lineage, for this reason, ever since I was young. At that time, the policies had basically not yet opened up, and everyone was very afraid. There was a thick, long biography of Guru Padmasambhava. We usually call it the Padma Kathang. Every household would quietly invite some monks, respectfully invite some learned monks to come. and those who could read would recite it once a year. When I myself could read a little, I started to recite this rather extensive and detailed biography. Actually, this very extensive biography was later translated into Chinese by someone named Lodro Gyatso. He translated it into Chinese in a prose style. He had done some additional research in this area. I actually heard that it was later retranslated again. It seems he passed away a few years ago, didn't he? He was a layperson. If he hasn't passed away and finds out about this later, he'll hate me. He probably hasn't passed away, right? At least that's my impression as far as I know. Indeed, back in the late 1980s and also during the early 1990s, he was the one who translated the biography of Guru Padmasambhava, the revered spiritual master. At that time, it was reprinted by Qinghai Publishing House. In some of his research, he also mentioned there are actually many different biographies of Guru Padmasambhava. In fact, there are probably more than 1,500 unique and distinct biographies. There are truly a lot of biographies of Guru Padmasambhava. There's also another one called An Outline of the Development of Tibetan Historiography. In the book by this scholar, he says here that there are as many as over 2,500 biographies of Guru Padmasambhava. As for the existing literature now, there are actually more than 400 different biographies. And now many Western scholars, including those from Cambridge University, Oxford University, and Harvard University, many of their scholars, Westerners, are especially fond of Padmasambhava. When His Holiness travels abroad, the translators often find it very smooth and almost effortless to translate at those times. Some English translations, however, are not particularly smooth, but their deep research, unwavering dedication, and faith in Guru Padmasambhava are incredibly strong and powerful. Of course, we also know that in the biographies of Guru Padmasambhava, there is one called the Namtar Zangling Ma by Lama Nyang, which was revealed as a Terma by Nyang Nima Ozea. This is the most well-known and famous one of all. It should date back to the 12th century according to historical records. Nyang Nima Ozea lived from 1124 to 1192 AD during that historical period. It was probably revealed around that time. I honestly originally wanted to translate it myself this year too, and there are already some translations available. Perhaps some versions are easier to understand, but I really haven't had the chance and time yet, to be honest. This should be somewhat related to all the Terma of Guru Padmasambhava. Nyang Nima Ozea is the author mentioned by Khenpo Tsultrim Lodro when he taught the heart advice on Guru Padmasambhava practice last year. We have also recently translated it into Chinese. The treasure revealer of that text is also him. At the same time, there was another individual known as Namkha Nyingpo who was present during this similar period. He lived during the same period as Nyang Nima Ozea. He was also a great treasure revealer. In the context of our related esoteric teachings, it is worth noting that some Terma histories mention him as well. He is also known to have revealed a Terma himself. In that particular term, Guru Padmasambhava is said to be born from the womb. This is also rather unique. This pertains to the Terma tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. In the Terma tradition, most are considered to be miraculously born. As for the Karma teachings, Karma refers to the oral transmission. Regarding the Karma teachings, there is something called Puchen Buna. How should I explain this? There is an important commentary on the Vajrakilaya called Buna. Within this text, it mainly discusses the oral teachings of the Dakini Yeshe Tsogyal, which were later recorded in writing. This is now included in the Karma teachings. It might also be necessary in some cases for us to fully understand this. He was also in the land of Uddiyana, which is now on the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan today. That particular area is currently being studied by many people around the world today with great interest. Guru Padmasambhava was born from the womb, which is an important aspect of his story. For this reason, the biography we are sharing with you today is different from the usual ones you may have encountered before. Previously, what we often said was that from the heart of Amitabha Buddha, a Hri syllable manifested in miraculous form, and this appeared in the lotus flower lake of Uddiyana as a divine manifestation, where a child appeared in the very heart of a beautiful lotus flower. This is considered to be the miraculous birth. This explanation is quite common. But in fact, Tāranātha's account is in particular somewhat unique. So the reason for our discussion and my translation this time is because of this. And then the Venerable Tāranātha thoughtfully composed. As for the author, Venerable Tāranātha, he lived from 1575 to 1634 CE, who was such a great master. In other words, he was a remarkable master of the 16th century, a truly extraordinary master. The Venerable Tāranātha was able to instruct and elaborate on the Dharma in classical Sanskrit. When he was young, he also studied under some great Indian masters. He was extremely familiar, even very familiar, with the Indian teachings. Therefore, his works are considered authoritative worldwide even today, because his work, The History of Indian Buddhism, today in many countries around the world, it has been translated into various languages around the world. Even the Indians themselves feel that Tāranātha's History of Indian Buddhism is also an extremely valuable historical document. So this time, the reason I actually chose the work by Tāranātha is that he belonged to the Jonang tradition. Dolpopa and Tāranātha are the two greatest masters of the Jonang tradition. Moreover, in Tāranātha's own secret biography, it is said that he is regarded as the emanation of the Venerable Longchenpa, also known as Longchen Rabjam. He himself is also like this. And previously, I also read a notable work written by Venerable Tāranātha called The Marvelous Biographies of the Great Accomplished Masters of Tantra. This was a long time ago, about 20 years ago. I don't know if any of you have read it. Tāranātha had done extensive research on Indian Buddhism throughout his life and work. So this time I am mainly using his translation as the primary material for this particular study. Then we want to consider what kind of person Padmasambhava really was. Of course, we can also discuss this later on here. Actually, when all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas act for the benefit of sentient beings, whether they are born from the womb or manifested miraculously, there is really no distinction between the two, in essence. At that time, there was someone named Tselek Natsorang Drok, who was also a remarkable master in Tibetan Buddhism. He specifically addressed the detailed biography of Padmasambhava, and there is a detailed Q and A session on this particular topic. In it, he explains that at that time, when the Venerable Kashyapa expelled Manjushri Bodhisattva in appearance, Manjushri Bodhisattva manifested in front of him at that time. In temples of all 10 directions, wooden blocks for expulsion were struck, preparing to expel Manjushri Bodhisattva, but he did not know which Manjushri Bodhisattva was actually being expelled. Using this analogy, Padmasambhava manifests in many ways before sentient beings. To some, he appears born from the womb, to others miraculously born, and to some he manifests in other forms. Therefore, in fact, from the perspective of the realization of the sages, there should be no contradiction. But from the point of view of some historians today, when looking back at the events of the past, the idea that Padmasambhava was born from the womb is something everyone can accept. So now if someone, perhaps in the future, happens to have different or alternative views or perspectives regarding the life and times of Padmasambhava, we should understand these texts accordingly. If we use these texts to understand, for instance, that is very good. Otherwise, simply some things, including some historical accounts and sources about the parents of Jesus in contemporary times. There are also some truly extraordinary and miraculous accounts in the stories. There are also many similar stories in Han region. So for some matters, historical texts are still indeed very important when spreading Dharma and benefiting sentient beings. Or in your own daily practice, it is important to have firm faith in the life of Padmasambhava. This is quite important. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Sonam dei tanche rogaya tonne de dhamma pase kirgana jirano chupai jupun sonen droa
Bandangara Padma Asadardha Bandangara Padma Asadardha Bandangara Padma Asadardha